Every anime is a masterpiece, and How Not to Summon a Demon Lord is no exception. How Not to Summon a Demon Lord is an anime about a gamer who has issues holding a conversation with people, and he gets summoned into another world as his video game character, named Diablo, and what follows through is his adventures throughout the world, similar to his video game world. In the beginning, when Diablo was summoned by two girls named Shara and Rem, we learn that Shara and Rem tried to have full control over him with the slave collar, but due to Diablo's ring, this effect was reversed, and Diablo has full control over Shara and Rem instead. This is to be noted as the ring is usually an object used to create a bond between two people, such as when one proposes to another, but in this case it was used to reverse the bond proposed to him and instead created a chain with two other people. This scene is important as shortly after learning about the slave collar, Diablo makes it his objective to learn how to take it off the two girls, showcasing how kind of a person he is, as at this point he had no clue about their personality. If he did end up as their slave, he has no idea what type of foul things they could have forced him to do, but he contains no grudge, and doesn't even think twice about freeing the ones who wanted to enslave him, which explains why Diablo never ends up killing anyone in the season, and always tries to hold back just enough to give people second chances. Although when Diablo has been crossed enough, he won't hesitate to ruin his opponents, such as when Diablo faces an opponent multiple times throughout the show, but at this final time he stops pitying his opponent and uses gravity magic, showcasing how Diablo manifested the gravity of his opponent's sin of not changing his ways, despite being given multiple opportunities. Throughout this season, magic and elements have been used to relate to the current scene, such as when Rem starts acting cold to Shara when ice magic is used, and when Edelgard tells the truth while standing in the river where Rem and Shara were bathing in, showcasing how her intentions in that moment were clear and clean. Although this was only possible due to the earlier scene in episode 4, when Diablo was fighting Edelgard and ended up destroying the bridge after telling her he was a true demon lord and showed the difference in power between them. And as the only one to survive that battle, the collapse of the bridge foreshadowed how her connection to the rest of the fallen would be different, as she started to only care for the demon lord's wish and not the goal of killing mortals. While Edelgard was a key figure in the resurrection of the demon lord, in episode 10, the most important figure was Rem, as she had the demon lord sealed within her. This caused Rem to be referred to as the mother of the demon lord by Edelgard, which was brought up even early on in the series at episode 6. When Rem's magic flow was being read, her stomach area was very dense, so the slave owner assumed she was pregnant, reinforcing the symbolism that Rem was the mother of the demon lord. The most solid support for this statement is when the resurrection of the demon lord ritual is going on. At first, Diablo, a male, had to push his magic in Rem's stomach, resembling a C-section, but when that fails, he instead pushes his magic through her lower area, resembling a natural birth. This isn't the only case of symbolism or parallelism in How Not to Summon a Demon Lord, as in episode 7 where Shara's brother was using a hypnotizing flute to make Shara come home. When he arrives to pick her up, it's in a fancy carriage, and the scene resembles a fairy tale, but shows how fantasies are a delusion, giving a hint to how this scene could only unfold with hypnotism. A major case of parallelism is when in episode 1, Diablo nibbles on Rem's left ear, and yet in episode 11, when Rem is being tortured, they cut her left ear, but not completely off, showing how her connection to Diablo wasn't completely dissolved, which foreshadowed how Diablo made it just in time to save Rem from death with healing potions. Although the person who led Rem to being tortured, named Alicia, had been hinted at towards being traitors from early on, such as in episode 6 where Alicia is doing a charm that keeps lies concealed on Rem, but ends up being shocked by the effect it had, showcasing how Alicia does this often as she keeps a lot of secrets from everyone around her. Also, her attempting this charm to keep lies concealed on Rem was important, as Rem was the one with the most important secret that Alicia was looking for this whole time. In the end though, Diablo does end up forgiving Alicia, which is in line for his character. Diablo, as someone getting a second attempt at a new life, does have the same personality, even though he is someone who has been betrayed multiple times over his life. When Edelgard said that the demon resurrection ritual did no harm, he believed her easily. This makes sense, as even when Diablo has been betrayed in his past and current life, he still hasn't tasted defeat in a fight, as he's been way too overpowered compared to his surroundings, supporting the statement that without struggle there's no growth. Diablo hasn't lost anything from giving his opponents multiple chances to fight him, since he's been stronger than them every time, though he did show no pity towards the enemy he used gravity magic on, since he almost killed Rem. This unforgiving Diablo didn't last long, even after learning in this situation that enemies he lets live will have a chance of harming people he cares for later on. He still spares his enemies though, as changing your personality in such a short period isn't easy. While Diablo hasn't changed, neither has the group dynamic, even through everything they went through, such as Shara's royal family struggles and resurrecting a demon lord. When the anime's final episode concludes, it concludes with the original trio, Diablo, Rem, and Shara, all acting how they did in the first episode when they first met, having Rem and Shera argue over something and then end up being in unison. In conclusion, every anime is a masterpiece, and How Not to Summon a Demon Lord is no exception. While bringing up topics of symbolism, connections, and parallelism, with an open mind bearing no preconceptions, the hard work put into the creation of How Not to Summon a Demon Lord can be appreciated immensely.